So anyway, the 49ers, I think, tonight need to and will win big. And they've also got to put to rest this whole idea that they can't beat the Cardinals. That's got to be aggravating. I don't know what it is, but that has to be aggravating, especially for Kyle Shanahan, who I think since he's been there, the 49ers are, 3-7 against Arizona?
Yeah, it's just been
What?
It's been awful. Yeah, it's been terrible. I mean, the Cardinals won both games last year. In 2020, they split. In 2019, Arizona won both. And so just in the past 3 years, you're dealing with a situation where you've had a hard time. Yeah.
1-3 the last 2 years against stinking Arizona.
And Arizona hasn't been that good. And even though last year when they lost to Arizona early on, they were undefeated and they looked like, okay, this might be Arizona's year.
Yeah,
but
7-0 they started.
You look at how they are this year, and it seems like they aren't nearly the same team that they were last year. Yet all of us, when we talk about this, you got to be a little bit cautious in terms of just the nature of the rivalry.
Yeah, and let me tell you something about Dibs that a lot of people don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, he and I used to do a show together here on 95.7 The Game years ago, about 10 years ago, roughly. And I remember you coming up with a term, franchise trend. Franchise trend is this franchise, they haven't beaten that other team at this stadium in 20 years or whatever it is. So is this a franchise trend? Franchise trends are not necessarily meaningful because they have to do with guys in the same uniform, but not the same guys. So the 49ers' frustrations against Arizona, is this kind of a fluky franchise trend, or is there something actually going on here that may have some implications for tonight?
Well, we'll find out tonight. I think right now it is a franchise trend, and you look
Fluky,
back,
right? It's gotta be.
It's super fluky, and you look back the last 7 years, and Arizona's 11-3 against the Niners, going all the way back to the 2015 season. And that, I know those were different times where you had Chip Kelly, you had Tom Sula, you had Mullins, you had CJ Beathard, you had a lot of weird situations. But I look back at last year with the Colt McCoy. That's a game that the 49ers absolutely should have won. You should be able to beat Colt McCoy, yet James Conner runs roughshod 3 touchdowns in that game. Arizona gets to 8-1. And that's the game where the Niners fell to 3-5, and you thought, well, that's it. Write them off. It's over. And that game was in Santa Clara. And that was a game that, by the way, wasn't maybe as close as the score indicated. Arizona jumped out to a 14-0 lead after the first quarter, and they took it to the Niners throughout the ball game. So is it something where the matchups of the teams favors Arizona? Is it the coaching matchup, or is it just kind of a fluky thing?
I don't know, but I know you go back to, wasn't it the opener, Kyle, 2020, the pandemic year, and the 49ers are home against Arizona, and they lost that game? And they, that was coming out of the trip to the Super Bowl in 2020, and they opened against Arizona with no fans there, and I think it was really smoky, if I'm not mistaken, because there'd been fires, and they lost that game. It was like, oh, what an ugly loss, and there it was to the stinking Cardinals again.
Yeah, 24-20. Calamari goes 26 of 40 in that one, and
so maybe he's part of it. Pardon me, but you made the point earlier, they struggle with mobile quarterbacks, and he's certainly that.
Yeah, and he ran for 91 yards in that game and a touchdown, and he threw a touchdown. Jimmy G, 19 of 33, not great for 259. He did score a couple of touchdowns with the arm. They ran the ball okay, but ultimately that game was in the balance. And Kenyon Drake, if you remember him, with the 1-yard run in the fourth quarter, turning the tide. That game was a back-and-forth affair, but the Niners were running. Yeah, a little bit of a backwash there. But Niners unable to get anything done after the Kenyon Drake touchdown with 10 minutes left.
That was also the game, remember, that I believe it was Dante Pettis was the WR1 and Trent Taylor was the wide receiver 2. And Jimmy Garoppolo's last gasp fourth down pass at the end of the game went to Trent Taylor.
I do remember that.
Tough.
Yeah.
No, those were the days, too, where he didn't throw to wide receivers. And I'm just looking at the box right now, Kyle. 2 catches for Kendrick Bourne, 2 for Jordan Reed, 2 for Trent Taylor, none for the aforementioned Dante Pettis.
None, huh?
So 6 catches by wide receivers. And then that was kind of the year where, and I'm glad you refreshed that, Kyle, because we all were saying, you need a receiver you can actually throw to. And now you've got Brandon Ayuk, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Jawan Jennings. You have receivers you can throw to. You have an elite tight end. You've got 2 running backs you can trust. it feels like this should be a game where you could hang 30 on Arizona.
Well, Kittle, they need to throw it to Kittle, right? It cracks me up. You read on Twitter, fans go, well, Debo's got 2 touches and Kittle's got 1. You got to get the ball to your playmaker. You can't just give them the ball. It doesn't work that way. But I am interested as to why Kittle hasn't caught more passes. How much of that is the way they're defending him, and how much of that is, he's got a lot of miles on him.
I think it's a little of both, and I also think that it's a situation where you like to have him in to block because he's such a good blocker, and you have other weapons now. It's not like 2020 where you had wide receivers you didn't want to throw to.
Yeah, like Jimmy's going back. Where's Kittle?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was the safety blanket. Now you've got Debo, you've got Ayuk. If you're going 2 wide receiver set, if you have 2 running backs in, you can use Juszczyk in the passing game. Eli Mitchell's been great between the tackles. Christian McCaffrey's a weapon. Jawan Jennings last game was huge on 3rd down. So, and I don't think that George Kittle's a guy who is going to Kyle's office saying, Kyle, I need my touches.
Yeah. Between you and I, let's say you're the 49er quarterback. And I know the plays are designed for certain things.
I almost was once.
Yeah,
but
I thought so.
Yeah.
But just between you and I, who's your guy, like, no matter what the play is, like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to, this guy's over here, but this is the guy, my safety blanket, that I trusted. If all things fall apart, I'm looking for who?
It'd be Christian McCaffrey for me.
Absolutely.
If not Debo Samuel, just because of Debo's ability to, if it's 3rd and 7, I can throw it to Debo at the line of scrimmage, and I have a pretty good chance that he's going to be able to yak his way to get 7 yards. And Christian McCaffrey to the same extent. He's not as physical with his yards after the catch, but he is so slippery, and he's able to make those quick cuts and get forward and be able to get those yards. But as far as like, who am I looking for as a route runner? It's Brandon Ayuk. If it's if it's 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6, and I know a play is going to be blocked up well, and I have a guy in the pattern who I know is going to be able to get open, that's Brandon Ayuk.
Such a sophisticated answer, but of course you know this offense.
Nuanced. I'm a man of nuance.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. Are you ready for my stat of the game? Whitey's stat of this game?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, I got it for you in just a second. First, Matt in San Rafael, 95.7 The Game. What's up, Matt? How are you? What are you doing?
Right now, I am driving home from the chiropractor.
How'd that go, by the way?
It was cracking.
All right.
Nice. Of course it is.
Call of the day.
You got a 5 for that, yeah. That's what that means.
So anyway, no, you guys are talking about getting it to your playmakers, and I was just thinking the same thing in terms of, this offense last week against the Chargers, the struggles in the red zone, settling for field goals, the fact that we struggle with mobile quarterbacks and our secondary suspect, and you're coming into DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, you're going to need to score in the red zone every time you can, and I'm really worried about Jimmy and, the ability to score in the red zone. I know we're in Mexico. I know it's the World Cup, but this game tonight, you're going to have to win, and you're not going to do it by kicking.
Nice uptick, Matt. Great call. Very well done. What